Hi, how do you like this angle? I get so bored of my videos always being from the same angle in the same room. I thought I would try to change it up. But anyway, today I want to talk about communication. And communication in voiceover and with clients. And how my communication has changed over time with clients. Because I used to have this thing where even though I would have clients and work would be fine and I would have good feedback, I noticed that I didn't really have returning clients. And for a long time I didn't have returning clients. And I never really knew why that was because, again, feedback was always great and everything always turned out great with the order. And even feedback about communication, they would say that it was great, but they wouldn't really come back very often, and I never knew why. And honestly, just me as a person, communication has never been one of my strong suits, ever. And I think that maybe it could be because I am quite possibly neurodivergent, so it's just one of the main things that I struggle with. It's very hard for me to understand like the social concepts of how you're supposed to talk to people and how you're supposed to read between the lines and all of that. So this was very hard for me to figure out. How is communication great, but people don't really return that often? And it hasn't been that long that I feel like I now have figured out what the problem was, because a lot has changed in how I communicate with people now, in my personal life and in my professional life as well. And it's really made a difference. Before I get more into this, I'm just going to tell you the answer now. The answer was, like in my professional life, why were these people not returning, even though everything looked great on paper? It was just because I never built emotional rapport with these people. I was just kind of like very professional, matter of fact. Like, this is strict business and that's what it is. We just do business here. And so that really showed through my communication style as well with people, that this is strict business and nothing else. And so I want to talk about how this has changed. One of the things that people have a lot of different opinions about is emoji use in professional communication. And I get it, because I used to be that way. I was so businesslike in my professional work that I was like, no emojis ever. And because I thought that this was unprofessional. I was like, these people, we do business together. We're not friends. So I'm not going to use emojis with them. Because I thought that that was just like a friend thing. Something that you would just only do in communication with your own friends. But actually, I don't feel that way today anymore. Because my understanding of why do we have emojis at all is because obviously it's very hard to understand intention and someone's mood and someone's tone through text. So we literally use emojis to try and make that more clear. So now my understanding is more like, if somebody is using emojis in professional communication, it's not because they're trying to be your friend or they're trying to be like friendly in some kind of inappropriate way with you. They're just trying to indicate, hey, I have good intentions. I am expecting this to go well. I have good feelings about this interaction with you, and that's all. They're not trying to be like overly friendly with you, at least in my experience. Because I see this a lot. More and more, all the time, I see people in professional communication using emojis. In professional emails, using emojis, asking for work and using emojis. Not like a crazy amount of them, but there might be a smiley face or something in there. And I used to see this as like, oh, that's so unprofessional, because my understanding was in professional communication, there is no place for emojis at all. And now it's so funny to look back on, because I am like, that's not true at all. At least that's just how I feel. I'm just expressing my own thoughts about it. My whole opinion on how you should communicate professionally has changed, because this no emoji use and everything, because I am possibly neurodivergent. I would kind of pride myself at first on like, I felt like in the past, I felt like, oh, hey, I finally figured out how professional communication works, which is this no emoji thing ever and very businesslike and all that. And I prided myself on that, because it's figuring anything about communication out is very difficult for me, and it's like that is a personal achievement whenever that happens. So, because I was like, hey, I figured out a communication rule, so then I just stuck to it. But actually there's way more that goes into this, and I'm sure that I am just scratching the surface on this. Like I say, communication is not my strong suit. But you know, I try my best, and I try to improve, and I have now finally actually seen some improvements. So that's one of the things that I actually changed about my communication with clients. I started using emojis too. I noticed something very interesting. Something that started to happen was that actually for the first time ever, I started to build some emotional rapport with these people. Like, just to explain what I'm talking about, I think at the end of the day, what is always true is that everyone, all of us, are emotional creatures. We are looking to bond with each other. We are looking to connect with each other, and that doesn't change just because it's professional communication. We still want to have good interactions with others, and we want to know on some subconscious level that we belong in this interaction. We belong with these people or with this person that I'm talking to. So this is like always true about us. Nothing ever changes about that, no matter who you're talking to or what the subject is or what the communication is. So this is true in professional communication as well. It's just people that are looking to connect with you on a human level, not just in like a robotic, this is just work level. Even though, yeah, it's just work. But especially today, at the end of the day, in this age, in the age of AI, especially, I predict that this is gonna be more and more prominent in communication now, is that people, they just want to see I'm talking to a real human being. I am talking to somebody who's authentic and real. That's all they're trying to see. So when they use emojis in their communication, that is what they are signaling. They're just like, hey, I am a real person, and I'm looking to have a real conversation here with you about whatever it is that they want to talk to you about. So that's what they're indicating. Or they're kind of like asking subconsciously, are you a real person too? And before I started doing this, I would always respond in a very matter-of-fact, business-like way. Even if somebody was using emojis with me, I wouldn't use them back because in my head I was thinking this is unprofessional. And I can't control what they do, but I can control what I do. And so what this does, it's so funny to look back on now, what this does, it just creates this sort of weird imbalance where somebody, the other person, is being like more open than you are. So it's like a really weird asymmetry in your communication. It feels energetically really weird as well. It feels like, you know, the other person is indicating, hey, I'm open. I'm open. I'm looking for a real connection with another human being. But you, as the business-like person, is like, no, no, no. I'm closed off. It's kind of like that. And then the communication just feels really weird. It feels like somebody needs to change how they communicate. But now I do use emojis in even my professional communication. Not like a crazy amount, but just enough to indicate, you know, I'm a real person. I'm authentic too. Yeah, I'm also looking for a real connection. This has really changed this returning clients business. And of course, it's not only emoji use specifically, it's also how I talk to them. I remember people's names now and what they do. And I make notes of like, what was our previous interaction like? Because, you know, if you do a voiceover, you get a lot of clients. And over time, even when these clients return, you might not immediately remember that so-and-so and we did this exact project together. So I think it's actually a good idea to make some notes somewhere for yourself so that when this person pops up and you don't immediately remember maybe what is your relation with them, at least you have somewhere to check and you're like, oh, that's so-and-so, and we did this thing together, and it worked out like this. It'll come back to you, and then you can reference that thing. And then they can see that you actually remember, and it mattered to you and everything. You know, we have this saying in Estonia that your brain is not a recycle bin. Like, it doesn't... I guess in English, it's not a file cabinet. I think I've heard that before. So it's not like you have to remember all of these things by heart, but just make notes of like who people are. And then you can reference that in your communication and you will actually be more personable with them. And the other thing is just warm communication. Just being more open, indicating that you're more open. I'm not saying that you have to tell them personal things or nothing like that. But there's a very big difference between communicating like I am just this business person and communicating like, hey, I'm a real person and I'm actually looking for a real connection here. If you do all of that, and then you add a few emojis in there too to, you know, try and convey your tone. Because I'm saying again, through text, it's very hard to understand what is someone's mood or intention or anything towards you. So I feel like if you don't use any at all, well, that's just me, but it really does come off like either you are being extremely closed off for some reason, or it might even come off like you're angry for some reason, because there's actually nothing to indicate what you are. But if you don't use any emoji at all, then you are kind of leaving other people, I feel like, to guess what your emotional state is. Because you're not filling in the gaps for them. So then their brain will do that work for them. And that's when like all of their past experiences and everything will come in. And you never know what are their past experiences with communication. They might come to a conclusion that's like incorrect about your emotional state if you don't indicate in any way what it actually is through text. So I actually think that's very important, and emojis are just one way to do that. So when I started using emojis and everything else that I've already talked about in my communication with clients, I actually started seeing returning clients. This was because I was building emotional rapport with these people. But I didn't just wake up one day and think, oh, I'm going to try to do it like this now. I'm going to try to communicate like this now and see if something changes. No, it was only when I met one of my friends who is also a voice actor. And I mentioned them before in my videos. They're kind of like, I see them as like my friend and also like my voiceover mentor, because they've taught me a lot and they continue to teach me a lot about voiceover. But this is just one of these people who is like really good at communicating with other people. As I say, that is my weak side. I have never been that person who is a great communicator. Even in real life, I'm very quiet. Maybe it doesn't seem that way in my videos, but it's just because it's my video. It would be pretty strange if I just turned this camera on and just stared at it and said nothing. So it might seem like, oh, this person, Kelly, talks a lot, but it's just because it's a video. So I kind of have to talk. But in real life, I really don't. And I struggled with it a lot. I've just very often been like, I don't even know how to act in this social situation, and I don't know what to say to people, and it's just a struggle for me. But this person, my friend, is kind of the opposite. Like, they are very warm, very open, and very personable with people, and they actually have studied this, human behavior and all of that, and it really shows. They're really good at this, and in terms of voiceover, they're good at getting repeat business as well, because they are like that. But this friend was never like, hey, you need to communicate like I do or something. This was never really like something we specifically talked about, I don't think. It was them like letting me be me. Like, they never told me that there was anything wrong with my communication style. And, us personally, just me and them outside of work, we really got along. And so, like, this person, they just like me the way that I am. And I think that was the key, actually, for me. It was their complete non-insistence on trying to teach me anything. That I could just pay attention to what they are like as a person and how they communicate with other people, because they really are great at it. And so I could just observe that. I could observe how they talk to people, like one-on-one, like when it's like a live interaction, and I could observe how they text with people. And I just noticed that this is very different from anything that I have done before. And it was different because my friend was just open with these people. It was just being like a real person, like a real authentic person who's saying, hey, I'm looking to actually connect with you. They have an understanding that even when something is strict business, there's still always going to be the emotional component. Because, and I was talking about this with them just earlier, that there are so many people in voiceover who can do exactly what you and I do, and what any voice actor does, and they can do a very, very good job. But what is the thing that is determining if the client goes to you or somebody else? What is the thing that is determining in their head especially if both of these people did a really good job, what is the thing that determines who am I going to go to? I think what it is the communication part. Like, yes, it's important that you're easy to work with and the work comes out great. But after that, it's going to be, what was it like talking to this person? Do I have any actual emotional connection with this person? What are they like as a person, not as a voice actor? So if you are just open and warm, but you still have boundaries, you're just open and warm, but with boundaries, then these people are going to come back to you because the communication was also great. They have a connection with you now. And the person that you have a connection with, that's always going to be the person that you're going to choose, because that's just how our brains are. That's how we are as people, no matter what we are doing. We're always going to gravitate towards the person that we actually have some kind of personal connection with, that we actually feel is a real, authentic person. That's just how we are. My friend is very much like that. And it really shows. They have repeat business, and it's like their whole history, like anything they have ever done in their life, which is a lot of things. You have done a lot of things. That's so crazy. They know I'm talking about them, by the way, because I asked them if I could include them in this video and like go on a whole rampage of appreciation, basically, because they have just taught me a lot. But anyway, this person has done a lot of things in their life, and this has been the constant, that they are just very warm and open, and they are able to create that connection with anybody. It really comes back to them tenfold. And so, but they were never like, you need to become like me. This created the situation where I was just able to observe what they were doing and how they were communicating, and then just adopting some of these things for myself. And I never thought, oh, I need to become like them. I need to become a great communicator. Because, I've tried that in my life. I've tried to become that before. And people have tried to teach me things about communication before. But it never stuck with me, because it always felt to me like there's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with the way that I communicate. But my friend here was just like, you are already great the way you are. Like, you're all good. But like, here are just some suggestions that you could do. There weren't even suggestions. It was just us talking about how they communicate. Because I would point out, I would notice how they communicate. And then I would tell them, hey, I noticed you doing this thing with people. So in that sense, we did talk about it, but never from this perspective of like, they were never like, I'm gonna teach you how to do this because you really need to get better at this. No, nothing like that at all. It was anything that I adopted for myself was because, I finally began to understand something about communication. And so basically what I'm trying to say is that this person kind of unlocked the whole returning clients thing for me. And then I finally understood why it had been that they never returned before. And the importance of an emotional connection, no matter what it is that you're doing with anybody. That this is one way of how my communication has changed with clients. But another way is just that I have become extremely direct, because I have struggled with this my whole life. I have struggled with saying what I really think about things, because I know that I stand out. I have always stood out in my life, and I'm not saying this to be like, oh, I'm so special, I stand out, but I just, like, it has just been a fact of my life, and I have never really liked this. And so this created this thing in me where I was like, I don't want to express what I really think about things, because I don't want even more of this standing out and of this like weird spotlight on me. Because I have also struggled a lot with communication, then you can imagine that's not really a great combination, because there are a lot of misunderstandings that happen, and there can be a lot of like people thinking that you're thinking things or feeling things that you aren't really thinking and feeling. But if you don't express what you're actually thinking and feeling, then they can't trust whatever it is that you say. So that's not a great thing either. And so it's just kind of been a mess like that. But like through these experiences, I have actually become like an extremely direct communicator, because there's been this much misunderstanding. And I don't know if it's because I'm neurodivergent or what, but I have never understood why is it so hard for people to be direct and just say how things are. Communication in general, I feel like, is very often this like really strange game that people play with each other, of like trying to guess what is in this person's head. Why are they saying the things that they're saying or doing the things that they are doing? And honestly, just me as a person, I am very tired. I am very tired of it. And if you are also neurodivergent, you can probably relate to this. We cannot read people's minds. And the more vague they are and the more indirect they are, the more brain power it takes for you to figure out like what is actually going on here. And so this has become so tiring for me, like throughout my entire life. I am now at this point where I'm like, my communication has now completely changed, and it has become extremely direct. Like I literally, the way that I talk now with people in my personal life, and to some extent in my professional life as well, even though I would word things a little bit differently if it's professional communication, but still, I am very clear. I really am like, I am thinking XYZ. This is because ABC. This means A. It doesn't mean B. I am telling you this because XYZ. And my expectation is whatever. I literally talk like that now. And I text like that to people as well, because it's I cannot deal with the misunderstandings anymore. And people like projecting something onto me or expecting me to know what they are thinking, because I can't control what anybody else does and how anybody else communicates, but I know now what a huge emotional and mental load it is for myself and other people as well, to try to figure out what somebody is thinking or not thinking, or what something means or doesn't mean. So to try and mitigate that and just like stop people's brains from filling in the gaps with things that are like incorrect, because it just happened a lot, I will fill in the gaps for them. At least when it comes to communicating with me, I really am like, I am telling you this thing because of this. It doesn't mean this, it means this. Just very direct. And you know, my friend was saying to me that some people are afraid of direct people. It comes off as scary. And I was saying, well, there's a difference between being a direct shithead and being a direct, kind person, because you can be kind and you can be direct at the same time. So I'm not saying that I'm blunt to the point of being like an asshole. I am just saying that I'm very clear. I'm just, these days now, I'm very clear in how I communicate. And I will briefly explain to people why it is that I'm saying the things that I'm saying or feeling the things that I am feeling. And I just feel like if somebody still misunderstands you after that, or tries to say that this is not correct or whatever, then that's on them, because now you have done everything you possibly could to help them understand and to be clear. I have just become like this now over time. And I find that it seems to help. Like I don't really have this many misunderstandings anymore with people. I mean, yeah, some people are really put off by this, but others really love it. There seems like there's no middle ground here. Either you love it or you hate it, but, well, at least I am clear. And then the final thing I would say is just that I tend to reflect other people's communication style back to them. Now, I don't mean if somebody is being shitty with me that I get shitty towards them as well. Like, no. In that case, I just get boundaried and I just tell them very clearly that it's not going to fly with me in a polite way. But overall, I do tend to just I reflect the communication style of whoever it is that I'm talking to, and I let the other person set the tone and the pacing. So if somebody comes to me and the way they start talking to me is very, very matter of fact and very businesslike, then I just go, this will be my response as well. Very matter of fact and businesslike. If they come and they're more personable and they use emojis and they're very warm, that's exactly what my response will be as well. And if they come and it's something in the middle where they're being personable, but they're also being very boundary, then that's my response as well. And then I look at what they keep on doing, and then I just reflect that back to them. It's basically like matching the vibe is what I would call it. Just match the vibe, because if you don't match the vibe, it creates this weird energetic imbalance that I was talking about before. It just feels very weird when one person is really open in their communication and the other is very closed off. Very strange. Feels very strange. I don't like how that feels. I think there's probably a term for this, actually, in psychology or something, when you reflect somebody else's communication style. And before you say that I'm being fake or something, there's a very clear difference between being fake, hiding who you are, and just reflecting responding to somebody the way that they are talking to you. But it's basically respecting their boundaries. That's what that is. So if this is just a very business-like communication, you can still tell people what you think and how you feel, like your real responses, but you would word it in a way it's not just emotional spillage on the other person. So you're still being you're still being authentic, still saying what you really think and feel, but you're not oversharing, just like my friend was saying when we were talking about this. They were saying that one of the things that they have learned is to not overshare with people, because it makes people uncomfortable. And yeah, I agree. And I think it's just because if you start doing something like this and you don't actually have that level of a connection with somebody, then it just comes off as really weird. It's very overwhelming to people. They don't know how to respond to that. You can share things, but I guess you have to ask yourself, what is my level of relation with this person currently? And then decide based on that, what am I going to share? And you know, this relation can deepen and then you can share more things or be more open. I'm not saying that you're stuck responding in some very specific way, but what I do is I just watch what they are doing. So if they indicate that they are more open, or if this business like communication becomes more warm, so like if somebody was talking to me and it was very, very businesslike and no emojis at all, and we had been talking like that, and then suddenly I see an emoji in something that they say, it's kind of like, okay, some kind of next level just happened now. And so then I know I am free to use emojis as well now because they just did it. It's kind of like that. But nothing about this suggests that you can't be yourself or that you're being fake in some way. You are just watching how you communicate, and you are just watching what are this person's boundaries, and that's it. You're still being yourself. And then if something changes, then you can adjust. And so this has been extremely long now. But as a result of all of this, I have actually started building real connections with my clients and with people in my real life too. There's a lot less misunderstanding now. And I feel like most people are just sort of relieved, because at least when it comes to me, just me, this specific person, Kelly, they don't have to think so much about like, what does Kelly think about this, or what does she really feel about things? Because it's like, if I feel something about things now, I just say it. You know, I find some polite way to say it that is direct, and it's not, I'm not being like a shithead. I'm just being kind and polite, and I just say what I mean, and it's just kind of like, what you see is what you get. That's how it is these days. And so overall, this has now resulted in returning business for me. And I seem to have great relationships with my clients, and they do come back. And they reflect that back to me. They're like, this whole thing just feels easy and like working with you. So that's great. If anybody else was wondering like about emoji use in communication or anything else that I talked about, I just hope that you got something out of this. Maybe you got some tips out of this for your own communication style with clients or whoever else, because I don't think there's any end to how we could improve communication. I hope that this has been informative or helpful somehow, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.